Well, hello there. So, this is another real-time reaction. I just found this article a few days ago, um, and I thought, what is this? This looks interesting. So, this is from Self-Publishing School. Show Don't Tell, finally getting it right, plus examples. That's good. So, Self-Publishing School tends to have examples, which is a relief, because others tend to not. So, okay. So this is a real-time reaction in that I have not read this beforehand. I'm seeing this all for the first time. I might go off on tangents. Let us see what happens. I'll be reacting to this, giving my thoughts. Show don't tell is something that many writers are told, and something that I've definitely been told, and it's also something that I've recently maybe have figured it out. So we'll see what this article says. This is written by Bella Rose Pope, which is a very nice name. Bella Rose, it's a very pretty name. This was posted on April 1, 2024. So it was posted on April Fool's Day. I hope this isn't a joke article. I don't think it is. So we're going to get into this. And I realized in my last real-time reaction video that when I select something like this, you guys can see this. I checked it in my own video. I checked that you guys can see this. Okay. So that's good. So I'm going to make sure that if I'm reading a certain sentence to highlight a certain sentence, I'm reading it over, I'll make sure to do that. I might forget, but we'll see what happens. Okay. Show don't tell, finally getting it right, plus examples. Okay. Learning how to show don't tell in writing is one of the most difficult and important parts of writing when you first start, even if you claim to be experienced. But the online world of advice in this department is still more confusing than it is helpful. That is true. It's still more confusing than it is helpful because, oh my gosh, if you see my other writing advice reaction, writer reacts videos, you will see that it is a whole big mess out there. Anyway, let's move on. Let's move on. We're moving on here. I know you can see this. Okay. Many giving advice. What? Huh? Hold on. Let me just read this. Let me read this through and then hold on. Many giving advice about showing versus telling. Okay. Many giving advice about showing versus telling don't often fully understand the concept themselves. So the advice comes across vague and the examples leave much to be deciphered. True. True. Yes. People who say show versus tell, show don't tell, often I think they themselves were once amateurs and then they've learned a little bit and then they think, oh, here are these other amateurs. Let me say show don't tell because I've been told that when I was an amateur, which actually wasn't so long ago. But I feel like I can give this tip. But they don't really understand the concept themselves. I mean, I didn't understand for this concept. I've been writing for 15 years. 15 years? Have I been writing for 15 years? About 14, 15 years. And I only recently, like the end of last year, just recently figured out maybe this is what show don't tell is. And, well, anyway, let's read on. But when you start writing a book, it's as if everyone around you becomes the expert. They tell you to show, don't tell, start with action, or even embellish your stories to sound better. Yes, they do say that. But how do you know what advice to take and what do those writing tips even mean in the first place? Will help you understand the idea of show don't tell in ways that are actually applicable, because there are times when telling matters. Yes, there are. understanding the nuances of when to show versus tell is a huge part of the process. Okay, so I'm pretty optimistic about up to this point, because when they say because there are times when telling matters, that is something that I have also seen other writers say, and these writers who have been around the block for a while. However, even though they say telling matters, I have come across people who say, oh, telling does matter, but then they don't explain exactly how you're supposed to do this. But this self-publishing school article says they have examples. So we're going to see if those examples are actually helpful. Because some people, they give examples and you don't know how this is show versus tell. And what are you exactly supposed to do? So, and I have deciphered that, I think. So we're going to see what happens with that. Okay. I'm pretty optimistic with self-publishing school because in the previous react to tips for writing advice, tips like how to write your first novel or something like that, they gave an example of a first draft, an actual first draft somebody actually wrote, which was really nice. You do not see that. I mean, I wish more writing advice articles gave examples, but they really just don't. They just don't. Okay, here's what you'll learn about show, don't tell in writing. Okay, they give us some stuff here. There's 8. This is going to be a long video. Okay. Oh, by the way, I realized I didn't introduce myself. I'm Anna, or Fox and Thoughts, or the Fox, or however you want to call me. I've been writing for 50 plus years. And I thought, well, you know what? A lot of writing advice articles are just kind of annoying. So I'm going to see if I can find the best one. And that's what I've been doing in the past videos. And sometimes I find these articles and I thought, maybe I'll just react to these articles. So this react thing, this real-time react thing is a new thing. So I did it once before and it was quite nice. So I'm going to do it again. That's what this is. And if you've been subscribed, you know how it goes. These videos go on longer than anticipated. I hope this won't be the case, but there's 8, so it's gonna be, we're in for the long haul. Okay, guys. Okay, let's start here. What does show, don't tell mean? Show, don't tell is a process of writing to create a strong visual in the minds of the reader that will allow them to interpret what's happening, rather than telling a reader what happened. Okay, so hold on a minute. Hold on. After I read a sentence, I really have to reread it and just understand it. I don't always understand what I'm reading when I'm actually reading it. Do you ever get that? Like you're reading something out loud, but it's not actually getting to your head. Like you can't tell the person what you just read because you're not committing it into your brain memory or something. Do you have that? Anyway. Show, don't tell is the process of writing to create a strong visual in the minds of the reader that will allow them to interpret what's happening rather than telling the reader what happened. Okay, yeah, okay. By showing the actions and relationships and feelings instead of just telling the reader what happened, the writing comes off deeper and more meaningful. This creates a much deeper connection and brings readers closer to you or the main character. This is a quick example of the show, don't tell rule. Okay, telling. Candace was anxious about how late she was. Showing. Candace's eyes flashed to her phone, 9:33. She picked up her pace so it matched that of her heart, scampering down the hall. She had yet to climb 2 floors before reaching class. Again, her eyes flashed to the clock, 9:35. Couldn't time slow down just for one morning? Oh yeah, that's pretty good. That's pretty nice. There's something on my screen. You can think of it like this. Telling is the simple explanation of what is otherwise shown without using the same words. Okay. If a person, I'm right here. If a person were to ask you what is happening in the shown example, you would reply, Candace was anxious about being late. This is how to show, don't tell. Okay. I would also like to point out, this is something that I have found when it comes to show versus show, don't tell. it contradicts with the another piece of advice that writers are often given, which is to write shorter sentences. Okay, so the thing is, sometimes when you show something, it could create a longer sentence, and that is okay, because you don't want to sound like a children's book. If you're writing a children's book, you can sound like what was that book? There was a book that I read about a cat wanting a snack. Cat wants a snack. It was like, cat wants a snack. Cat sees a duck. Bad luck. Something like that. It's a cute book. Anyway, that is... where was I going with that? Oh yeah. Shorter sentences, yes. But if it turns out to become a longer sentence, like if the sentence just happens to be long because it's just weird if you broke it up, then it's fine. If you need to write a longer sentence in order to show rather than tell. So although show don't tell can sometimes contradict with write shorter sentences, it's okay, I think. So that's what I have found out in my own writing. Okay, so we're moving on. So yeah, that was just a little aside. That was just to add to what they're saying, because I think they should also mention that. Even though, yes, it's obvious in this example that the showing is longer than the telling, it's not like shorter sentences. It's not like long sentences particularly, but I'm saying that long sentences is fine. You don't have to say, you could say, she had yet to climb 2 floors before reaching class, and again her eyes flashed to the clock, and she wondered, I don't know, it's going on too long, but anyway, you don't have to make them short sentences. You can have long sentences, it's fine. Okay. Moving on, there's a video. I'm not going to watch that. You can watch it. I'm going to have the link to this article in the description box below, so you can look at that. Show don't tell examples. Oh, there's some more examples. That's nice. These examples are pretty basic, but that's the best way to gain an understanding of what this looks like. Yes, thank you, Self-Publishing School, with your gorgeous examples, because other writing article website places don't, I wouldn't say they don't do it. They hardly do it. Keep in mind, right here, keep in mind that your sentences may be more complex than these examples, but still full of tell words or phrases. Be on the lookout for the details and focus on reading books to decipher how that author uses the show don't tell rule. Show don't tell example for narrative and prose. Example 1. Tell. It was eerily quiet on the road until the sound of footsteps terrified me. Show. Crunching hit my ears from behind. I don't know, this is kind of funny to me. I mean, imagine it, crunching. It sounds like the word crunching is hitting your ears from behind. It just sounds funny to me. Crunching hit my ears from behind, accelerating the already rampant pounding of my heart. Okay. Yeah, okay. Well, anyway. I'm just pausing a little because I don't know, it just seems like it could have been a different show, but we'll give them some slack here. Why this showing example is better. In an instance such as this, you want the reader to feel what you did, the surprise and the sense of urgency, the fear. Describing the crunching that hit your ears, even through the pounding of your heart, not only creates a powerful visual, but it also tells the reader the state your body was in during that intense moment. The first example is weak and does little to explain how you actually felt in that moment. Yeah, so I was thinking before I started this video, because I knew I was going to do this article. I just didn't know what they were going to say. I was thinking about a show don't tell example, like what would be an example of show don't tell. And I was thinking about like if you say he was tired, and then you show that there was sweat above his brow. He was breathing heavily. He could hardly stand upright. Like his eyes started closing or something like that. So you would do a lot of description about his sort of physical state. But anybody who reads that would say, oh yeah, he's tired. So this is sort of like that. It's like the sound of footsteps terrified me. So instead of using the word terrified, you're actually describing the sort of physical parts of it. So it says accelerating the already rampant pounding of my heart. That's a little bit much of a sentence, but I can see what they're trying to do here. So they're actually trying to show you how they showed you, they're trying to show you, what is it? Why am I'm just completely blanking out. What was I saying? They're trying to show you through the showing example how you can describe the actual physical feeling of being terrified. So, like, you would think something like this. You would think, okay, character is terrified. What does it mean to be terrified? What do I feel when I am terrified? Well, I feel my heart might start beating faster. My mouth might go dry. Maybe I would start to notice all the other little sounds around me, be sort of hyper aware of what's around me. My hands might start sweating. I don't know. So you would think of all the sort of physical little things, or the things that you would do when you feel terrified. So you're not just feeling terrified, you're actually feeling it. You know what I mean? Hope this is making sense. So that's what they're trying to do here. It says, does little to explain how you actually felt at that moment. They're really saying to describe the sort of physical side of that feeling. So even if you are hungry, then you can describe how you are feeling hungry. So when you are hungry, what exactly are you feeling? You're feeling lightheaded. You maybe your stomach even starts hurting. You can't concentrate. You keep thinking about food. Your mouth starts watering. I don't know, something like that. So it's a lot of physical thing. You know, now that I'm talking out loud and saying all this stuff, I'm realizing it's a lot of physical body description stuff. If you say you feel sad, you feel hungry, you feel tired, you feel happy, or you feel full, you feel, I don't know, what else do you feel? What do you feel? What are you feeling? You feel grateful. You might still be able to describe some kind of physical manifestation. It manifests onto you in a physical way. You describe that in your writing, and that makes your writing immersive? Perhaps. Okay, example 2. She was my best friend. I could tell her almost anything. Show. I met her at the town square, running in for our usual hug that carried on for far too long as we gushed about our lives with smiles lighting our faces. Okay, why this showing example is better. The first example of telling is shorter, but doesn't do a great job of really showing the impact you have on each other. Anyone can think of best friend and form an overall thought about what that looks like, but this isn't just anyone. This is your best friend. Showing your relationship with one another is vital to forging that deeper connection. Okay, so I'm not sure about this showing example because it doesn't say anything about I could tell her almost anything. You could still gush about your lives without telling someone anything, right? Everything, right? but that she was my best friend is being shown here. So like you're meeting and then you're hugging for far too long and then you're just so happy to see each other, that kind of thing. I don't know. It feels like I could tell her almost anything doesn't really come up in this show example. But if you want to show the friendship, you want to show the friendship, and it doesn't necessarily have to be that you could tell them almost anything. You just want to show the friendship. Then the tell example should be, she was my best friend. And not, I could tell her almost anything. I don't think that it's a little confusing for that to be there, in my opinion, anyway. So you know, so this part, I don't know. It doesn't feel like it comes up here. Maybe it does. Maybe it doesn't. What do you guys think? Do you think she was my best friend? I could tell her almost anything. This tell version and this show version, do you think they're matching or not? I don't know. Anyway, okay. Yeah, because the explanation then just talks about the best friend part. They don't talk about what they did for the I could tell her almost anything part. Yeah. Example 3. The sound of his voice shocked the students. Show. The students jolted as one. Immediate silence followed as heads whipped in the direction of the voice. Ooh, I bumped my mic. Okay, I don't know if you guys heard that bump on the mic. You probably did. Okay, why this showing example is better. It's not significant, but it's a more vivid way of showing what's happened. The way you'd show a shocked group of students could be many ways. Here, fear is what we see by using jolted in the depicted visual. That can do a lot to fill in the gaps of relationship the teacher has to the students as well. Show, don't tell is a great way to fill in those gaps. So this tell example, it says the sound of his voice shocked the students. And so when I read that, I thought about, okay, so there's something unique about his voice. And so in the telling version, we're going to get a description of his voice. We don't get a description of his voice. We just get a description of how the students were shocked, like what their physical bodies actually did. They jolted as one, right? And then immediate silence, they're not speaking, and then heads whipped in the direction of the voice. That is just the part of describing the shocked students. It's nothing to do with the sound of the voice. So I don't know if maybe I was missing something or something like that. Yeah. Anyway, I think example 1 in this case is a lot better. But I think what we've learned here through my talking here is that the show is often what the physical manifestation of the feeling was. So shock, best friend, being a best friend, feeling that person is your best friend, terror, that kind of thing. Okay. Best friend example is an interesting example though, because it's not really a feeling, but you're still describing a physical thing, like what they're doing physically. Like they're running to each other, they're smiling, they're talking and chatting, and just so excited. So yeah. Sorry, there was a yawn in there somewhere. Okay, show them tell example for dialogue. Writing dialogue is tricky. I'm reading here. Because we almost never say exactly what we mean. In fact, it's difficult to plainly state how we feel, what we want, and more. But the way we say something does a lot to show what's going on with us inside. Yes. And we don't often see many rules for how to show don't tell with dialogue. That's why I'll break it down in a few examples. Example 1. Tell. What do you think of my project? She asked nervously. Show. Oh, I don't know, she said. The top is a little funky, and the bottom, she trailed her fingers down its side, turned out wider than I planned. but I think I got most of it. Of course, her hands rolled over one another. It took longer than I thought it would, and well, here it is. Why this showing example is better. Many people, especially those insecure and nervous, won't directly ask someone what they think about something, especially if they're not a forthcoming person. But as you can see here, the showing version of this dialogue allows the reader to understand that she's nervous and is probably seeking the other person to comment on what she created. Plus, this gives cadence to how she speaks, which further develops character, helps develop character. Okay. You know, dialogue is difficult, and I'm not an expert in, I don't think I'm an expert in dialogue. I mean, I do my best, like we all do. I'm guessing that this tell show example is trying to describe this nervously part. What exactly is nervously? But I think. Yeah, I'm thinking of lots of things today. Many thinks and thoughts today. Yeah. Anyway, so they're trying to describe this nervously part and adding even more words into her mouth. Speaking of mouth, I'm going to take a sip of coffee. It's a caramel latte today. Very fancy. So, adding, you could have just, I don't know. I mean, because, like, what if the character is, they don't say many words and that's what shows their nervousness? Like, maybe they usually speak, quite fluently or a lot, but when they're nervous, they don't speak they don't speak very many words. So, I mean, this depends on whether you want to show it, don't tell in dialogue, depends on the character of your character. Does that make sense? So, like, if your character doesn't say many words when she's nervous, then you just describe what she's doing after she finishes speaking. So it says she asked nervously, and usually you're not supposed to use the ly because you can describe it. You can. It's not like you can't use ly at all. But saying she asked nervously, you can say she asked, trailing her fingers down its side. Her hands rolled over one another as she waited my reply, or something like that. And I mean, this shows that she's fidgeting, and people who are nervous fidget. So it says many people, especially those insecure or nervous, won't directly ask someone what they think about something. I don't think you can definitely say this. Nothing is a definite. Okay, so many people, especially those insecure and nervous. So you guys might be surprised, but I'm quite a shy person. And when I'm insecure or nervous, I would still say, what do you think of my project? Nervously, and I would do so, and the nervously part will come up in a physical way. And if you describe what I'm doing, I might hunch my shoulders, sort of pick at something on my finger. Like I'm usually picking at something like a band-aid or just skin. It's not good. I shouldn't be doing that. But it's a nervous habit. I might touch my nose or something, or scratch my chin, or just kind of feel very fidgety. And so if this character here is like that, then you just describe, just, you don't have to have her saying all these things if you don't want to. If you want to, you can. If you don't want to, you don't have to. Okay. So, yeah. So that's, I mean, you can change the dialogue to show that they're nervous. Like, you can have them speak more things, but you don't have to. You can just put that in the description that comes after they finish speaking. I think that is better. But if you want them to say more words, go ahead. You can have them say more words. I'm not stopping you. So the second example, I think that was a stupid decision, he huffed. Show, what were you thinking? His voice was low and clipped. Do you have a death wish? Do you want us all to die? Or is there even a single thought running through your head at all? Why this showing example is better. The baffled nature of several questions does more to explain how this character feels than a single sentence. Now, some characters might just come out and say it. But if you want to employ show don't tell rules and allow the readers to pick up on what this character is like, this example of showing does that. You don't need him to say he thinks it was a stupid decision. His line of inquiry does that for you. Okay. I feel like they're contradicting themselves here in this article. They say, now some characters might just come out and say it. Meaning they might just come out and say, I think that was a stupid decision. But if you want to employ show don't tell rules. So this sounds like self-publishing school wants you to employ these rules. And if you don't do this, you're not doing it right. Okay, so you can't, when you're giving writing advice, when you're giving someone advice and giving suggestions, you can't say to say that you can sometimes not do it, but also you have to definitely do it, because then you're not doing it right. Because there is really no right way to write. It's just how better to make readers feel immersed into the story. That's my opinion. Some characters might just come out and say it. I mean, and if your character just comes out and says it, and that's just the kind of character they are, then it's fine. You don't have to feel forced to do show don't tell in dialogue. I think show don't tell in dialogue is an interesting exercise, and if you want to try it with your characters, you can. But if you say that, no, he doesn't talk like this, he doesn't ask all these questions, it's not his character, it's not this character's character, then don't do it. It's fine. I think so. Anyway. Yeah. I had some, self-publishing school was like this in the last one too. It's like, oh yeah, they have some good examples. I'm going to have high hopes for it. And then it's like the examples are like, well, some of it is good, but it's not really. And then they say things that contradict each other. And then, anyway, example 3, I've fallen in love with you. Okay. Oh boy. Where are we gonna go with I've fallen in love with you? Can a character just confess his love to somebody, please? Show. It's always... Okay. I'm going to be laughing and cringing at the same time. Okay, hold on a moment. I don't actually read romance books all that often, and romance scenes are sometimes cringy. Let's see what they did with this. Oh my gosh, I already kind of read ahead. I see some. Oh God, okay. Show. I can't read this with a straight face. Guys, help me. Okay. It's always obvious when you've spent time in the sun. Okay. Oh my gosh. Does anybody actually talk like this? It's always obvious when you've spent time in the sun. Help me get through this. Okay. It's always obvious when you've spent time in the sun. He tucked a strand of hair behind her ear. Not by the not by the quiet peace you seem to embody on these days. What era? What era is this guy from? Hold on a moment. Let me collect myself. Oh God. Okay. Not by the quiet peace you seem to embody on those days, nor the slight smile that lingers on newly reddened lips, but by the freckles. Nobody talks like this, do they? Do they? They just say I love you and get it over with. He paused, holding a hand to her face, just an inch from her cheek, ever so darker than they were just the day before, blooming across your nose and cheeks like your favorite flowers do the meadow in the dawn of spring. Oh my God. Guys, please. What was her name? Bella Rose Pope. Please. Please. Nobody talks like this. If you're going to, I know what they're trying to do. I know they're just trying to give you stark examples to really illustrate what they're talking about. Oh, jeez. Oh my gosh. Okay. Let me just. Okay, we're going to read that over. It's painful. Oh my gosh. Okay, what am I feeling? This is like cringe central here. Okay. The tale is I've fallen in love with you. The show is absolutely redonkulous. It's always obvious when you've spent time in the sun. He tucked a strand of hair behind her ear. Not by the quiet peace you seem to embody on those days, nor the slight smile that lingers on newly reddened lips, but by the freckles. He paused, holding a hand to her face, just an inch from her cheek. Ever so darker than they were just the day before, blooming across your nose and cheeks like your favorite flowers do the meadow in the dawn of spring. Oh my God, nobody talks like this. Why this showing example is better. Being able to show, don't tell when it comes to love is very subjective, but always carries something potent. Specifics do a great job. To know someone or a quality of theirs so deeply and to be communicated with romance is a simple way of showing his love for her through dialogue. He doesn't need to say that he's fallen in love with her in order for her and the reader to feel it. This cringe. I think she could have come up with a slightly better example, if I'm being honest. Okay, it doesn't have to be this way. It doesn't have to read like a cringy I don't read Regency romances, but a cringy romance in the bygone eras or something like that. I don't know what I'm talking about. I really don't read romance stories. I've watched people reacting to awful romance stories. Badly written, is what I mean. So, yeah, I know what they're trying to do, but he could notice other things, like, I don't know, how kind she is. He could say, I notice, I don't know, what could he say? That you're kind and caring, and I can't think of a life without you. Doesn't that say love too? Doesn't he have to go into such detail and describe nobody says to somebody, maybe like in description, like if this is the narrator speaking, then yes, okay, fine, you can be a little flowery, but someone actually saying out loud, the slight smile that lingers on newly reddened lips, but by the freckles. Who talks like that? Nobody. Okay, let's move on from this cringe fest. Oh my God. Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh, that was a thing. That was an experience. Oh my God. We're gonna Okay, let's get through this. Okay. Show don't tell examples in whole scenes. Okay. Interesting. You can show in an entire scene or paragraph. Hold on. You can show in an entire scene or paragraph through a construction of the plot instead of just single lines, which is typically what you see in examples online for the show don't tell rule. The truth is, much of good books include entire scenes or chapters that leave the readers reeling and contemplating about what just happened, not in a confusing way, in a way that leaves the reader with an impression of both the plot and the characters at the same time. Okay, Brandon Sanderson is an author who does this really well. It's as if some of his books and entire chapters embody the show don't tell rule, specifically his Way of Kings novels with the interludes included. Interesting. I've never read Brandon Sanderson, by the way. This example is very simple and a brief way of showing what you can expand into entire scenes to show don't tell. The idea is to try your best not to outright say what is mistake, typo. The idea is to try your best not to outright say what is happening in the scene, but instead have the characters behave in a way that it's clear what's going on. Okay. So that is also an example of show don't tell. Interesting. Almost like pretending there's someone watching the scene and the characters are doing their best to hide what's truly happening from the viewer. Interesting. Example 1. Tell. She couldn't believe how much he'd grown. Show. That's not fair, he shouted. His nose was wrinkled in the same way it used to when he had trouble counting pebbles for his lessons as a boy. The same nose set on the same face with the same eyes, not quite as wide, not quite as innocent. He used to glare at those pebbles the way he now glared at her. That's an interesting example. Why the showing example is better. It's not much, but by highlighting what hasn't changed, we understand that this character is actually thinking about the past. She's comparing and almost longing for a time when he was just a boy counting pebbles. If this scene were to expand, we'd likely see more shown. We'd likely see more shown about how the events are crafted around the boy wanting to feel more adult and the viewpoint character holding him back. Okay. Okay. What do you guys think about this? I didn't know that this could be an example of show don't tell. I mean, isn't this just an example of, I don't know, good writing? Not necessarily show don't tell. I don't know. Show don't tell, is that writing? Anyway, you can still say she couldn't believe how much he'd grown and then describe how he's changed. But does that become redundant? I don't know. Sometimes when I'm writing, I actually like to, I don't know, what do you call it? Not test myself, but like experiment and see, can I make the characters talk about something, but it's obvious enough what they're talking about. The reader can obviously infer from the context what they're talking about. Sometimes when I write, I test myself or I challenge myself to do that. And it's fun. It's interesting. It's like, okay, so let me think. Anything recent? Okay, so there was this scene in one of my stories where one of the main characters he's looking for another character And in actuality, what's happened is that he is actually contracted with a demon. So he and his demon are working together to find this person, and he has actually found the location where the person is in, and they are searching for them using this demon has some kind of radar or something. And so the character is, what he's doing in that moment is he is complaining about why he needs to find this person, because he can see the future, and in the future it's shown that he interacts with this person, so then that's why he goes out to find them. And in this moment he is complaining about that why he has to find this. He says, why do I have to find this person? I hope this is all worth it. I've already tried 5 people and they were all wrong. I hope this is right. And so what I was trying to do there is that imply that he's not just annoyed that he has to find the person, but he's tried so many times and he just wants to be done with this already so he can get on with his life. And meanwhile, the demon is just, he's pretty optimistic, but he's also been optimistic about other ones before, so the character isn't so very optimistic. But I don't say what's happened in the previous times, but I do imply that he's met other people that he thought was those people. He takes them to his house and they turn out to be the wrong people. So he's been through this situation before. So he's done the same thing, finds a person, convinces them to come with him, and then goes to his house. So this is not all new stuff. And there's another scene where they chase off bad people. And the way it's written is that he knows how it's going to play out because he's seen the future, and so it's boring for him. And I don't say that he's seen this before, so it's boring for him. I just say that he was just bored. It's happened because it's already implied from before that this has happened many times before. So I try to show how he's sort of over it, basically. I don't tell that he's over it. He's done it this 5 other times before, and this is like the last straw. I don't know if that is a show don't tell. I mean, I know I was using the words tell and show, but I could have just shown how he's done it many times before. But that's not really where the actual story starts. It starts with him finding this person, and it turns out to be the right person. Yeah. So isn't that just, good writing or good writing practice? I don't know if it's particularly like a show don't tell thing, because I could still say he tried it 5 times before. The first time was this, the second time was this. Like, I could say that, and I could show that too, but I don't have to. It's just that it might come down to writing style. I don't know. Does it come down to writing style if you're doing show don't tell in this type of large scale, like an entire scene or an entire chapter? It depends also on what you want to tell the reader, what you want them to know beforehand, or you want them to know about the character. Like, you could show, like, if two countries in some medieval setting are at war, and then you could show the actual war. You could show them fighting and everything like that. And then say, like, the main character's side, they win. Or you could start the story with them winning. You know, like it was a victorious battle. And that's telling, but if that isn't if the war happening isn't the main point of the story, then you don't have to show it, you can just tell it. So if you just say, in this example, it says she couldn't believe how much she'd grown, if that thing about him having been different from before is part of the story, then you can show it. But if it's not part of the story, then you can just, she couldn't believe how much he'd grown, make a few little mentions, not the way he used to count pebbles for a lesson as a boy, but he was taller, he is his voice cracks, something like that, you know, some other physical thing. And then just move on. Like, you don't have to go on so long about how she's reminiscing about the past in which he was innocent again and all that stuff. Or you don't do anything. She couldn't believe how much he'd grown. And just move on. Depending on what your plot needs, probably, for these scenes. So if the show don't tell rule particularly doesn't really apply here, in my opinion. So like in my example, like I could have shown the other cases of where the character is trying to find this person. Or I say that's not part of the plot. That's not important to the plot, so I'm not going to talk about it. And just tell the reader there are 5 other cases and they were all wrong. And basically, main character is just over this stuff. Basically, that's what I'm saying. So, anyway, let's move on. Why should you show don't tell in writing? The entire point of using the show don't tell rule in writing is to make a stronger emotional connection with your readers and hook them. They already picked up your book for the killer title and the eye-grabbing cover, but they need a reason to stay. The idea behind this writing technique is to put the reader in the character's shoes, make them feel, hear, and sense the situation as they do. It's about creating an experience for the reader instead of just a recount of events. Doing this makes the reader want to root for the character. They want to hear your whole story, and in turn, they'll read your whole book. Yeah. Make them feel, hear, and sense the situation as they do. Yes, that's important. Okay. Why is showing, not telling also important for nonfiction? Okay, so I am a fiction writer. I have no idea about how nonfiction works, so I don't know if I can say anything about this part. If you write fiction, you hear this advice all the time. However, all of you nonfiction writers out there, this piece of writing advice might be new to you. Show don't tell isn't always the first thing a nonfiction writer thinks of when it comes to adding more intrigue to your story, but it is the most vital for pulling a reader in and not only hooking them, but keeping them with you throughout the duration of your book. Many fiction writers hear this writing advice often because it's one of the best ways to make real people feel deeply for fictional characters. When it comes to writing a story about your life and something you went through, the idea is the same. By showing and not telling, you'll be able to guide them through your real life situation as an experience and not just some book they're reading while the kids are yelling at their video games and the oven alarm is blaring in the distance. If you can show don't tell the right way, the reader won't even notice those distractions. Okay, see, this is a thing with the writing advice websites. This is the thing. They say use words like the rule or the right way as if all other ways are wrong, which I don't think that's the case. They should be careful of their wording. Okay, we're skipping the little thing here. How often should you show versus tell? It depends on your stylistic choice and natural voice as an author, but you do want to show more than you tell. Whether or not you end up describing things in immense detail depends on what you like. If you want to describe the crumble of a statue in a lot of detail, do so, especially if the statue is important to the plot of your story. Exactly what I was saying before. I was talking about these details, and if it's important to the plot, then you mention it. If it's not, then you don't. Okay. You can easily hide types of foreshadowing during these cases of show it. A good show don't tell rule is to show what's important to the character and the plot and tell between the gaps. You don't always need to describe what makes a person angry. You can even have your main character use a line like, well, she's angry again, within the narrative. The purpose here would be to skip to the reasons behind the anger, which would be shown through dialogue. Examples above. The point is to figure out what works for you, get feedback from better readers, and determine how often you should show, don't tell, depending on your own taste. It's your art. Okay. See, they're contradicting yourself again. They say you have to use this rule. You have to follow this rule. And then they say you don't have to follow this rule. So which is it? How to show, don't tell in writing by editing. So now you know what it is and why it's important, but how the heck do you actually do it? The process of taking a single story and crafting it to create more emotion can be difficult. Thankfully, we have some of the best tips for showing, not telling in writing. Let's see if these are the best tips. Cut basic sensory words. Phrases like I heard, I felt, and I smelled are all very weak. These are telling words and phrases also commonly referred to as filters that force the reader further away from you and your experience. That's exactly what you want to avoid. Instead, you need to pull them into your world and into your psyche the very moment you were encountering the situation. This is done by using strong verbs and other visual language. Okay, so I know about this one, like I heard, I felt, I smelled. If it's anything that can manifest in a physical way, otherwise, you could probably describe it. Like I even mentioned or noticed what I noticed in the beginning too, about this physical manifestation, that you should describe the physical manifestation. Like I heard, I felt, I was hungry, I was sad, I was sleepy. You could really say I was sleepy, or you could say my eyelids are heavy and I could barely keep them open, and that says, oh, she's sleepy, right? Show, don't tell exercise number 1. Read through your writing and circle every telling word you can find, anything that explains one of the 5 senses. Then write down specifics for each. If you heard someone creeping up behind you, how did you hear it? Was it crunching on gravel? Was it the shuffling of shoes against carpet? Once you have these, rewrite those sections by explaining how the senses manifested to you and not just what you sensed. Manifested physically. Okay. Another yawn. Show, don't tell exercise 1. Circle all telling words in your writing. As I ran toward the door, I heard a circle, footsteps behind me. I felt another circle. A chill of unease run down my spine. Was terrifying. I do a word search of the word felt, because I say she felt, she felt, they felt, he felt a lot. So, and I try not to, but let some of them slide while I'm drafting, so I go back through them. That way, if you print it out, then you can just circle them, I guess. Cut emotion explaining words. This might be a bit tricky. You certainly know how to follow this one 100% of the time, but if you can get this right, it'll make showing versus telling so much easier to grasp. Think of any word to describe an emotion. Happy, sad, angry, frustrated, excited, giddy, love, anxious, joy, disgust. I could go on, but I think you get the idea. These are all great words to describe how someone felt. However, they're also very weak, unexciting ways to do so. If you need your readers to understand how excited you were at any given time, show them. Don't just tell them I was so excited. Show them the sweat beating your forehead as you race to your destination. Show them the lifting of your cheeks as your lips parted away for an uncontrollable smile. My cheeks lifted and my lips parted away for an uncontrollable smile. Nobody talks like that. Seriously. If this is third person, maybe. But first person, don't. Please don't. Show, don't tell, exercise 2. Skim through your writing and circle every word that's an emotion. Then for every emotion explaining word you find, write down physical reactions of feeling that way. As I ran toward the door, I heard footsteps behind me. I felt a chill of unease run down my spine. It was terrifying. This is a felt word here. I see a felt word here. Write down the physical reaction. Terrifying, sweating, heart beating, wide eyes trembling. Once you have a small list for each circled word, use it to craft a couple of sentences to describe and show just what that looks like. You can see the difference alone between these two paragraphs by replacing all of the telling words and phrases. It develops into an experience for the reader, not just a retelling of what happened. Before and after showing and not telling. As I ran toward the door, this is the before. As I ran toward the door, I heard footsteps behind me. I felt a chill of unease run down my spine. It was terrifying. After. As I hastened toward the door, I think you can say ran toward the door. Why do you need to change that? I don't know. As I hastened toward the door, crunching hit my ears, crashing through the rampant thudding in my heart. Unease slithered down my spine. Slithered is a good word. The rampant thudding in my heart. I don't know. I don't really like that. But that's my opinion. Describe body language. One of the best ways you can show, not tell in writing is to use strong descriptive language when it comes to body language. A person's actions are really a gateway to their mind and how they feel. You can tell if another person has a crush on someone just by paying attention to the way their body adjusts when in that person's presence, right? Learn how to do research for your novel, whether on social interactions, setting, or otherwise. Showing versus telling in writing is exactly that. You want to show the reader what is happening and allow them to form a conclusion about how you or others in your story felt based on what they look like. In all honesty, a lot of this one is about having faith that your audience can put two and two together. Oftentimes, we tend to over-explain in an effort to make something obvious when really the emotion is in the guesswork. It's in allowing someone to draw their own conclusions. That over-explaining is what comes across as telling and not as emotionally compelling. And honestly, is also pretty boring and flat. If you do a great job of showing what you want readers to see, they'll understand how someone feels, and they'll even feel that way themselves. That's the power of showing, not telling. Okay, there was a lot of stuff there. But basically, describing body language. Basically, describing the physical manifestations of the emotion. Basically, they're repeating themselves. Basically. Use strong verbs. Showing itself can be extremely impactful, but using strong language and verbs in specific situations is even more powerful for adding them to your story. The way you make someone else actually feel how you did as you were going through the experience is to make sure the words you're using directly reflect the emotions. This can be a difficult task for those who aren't sure what strong language looks like, but I'll make it easier for you. Show, don't tell, exercise 3. Think of a situation you want to explain in your book, or maybe something you already have written out. Now imagine what feeling you want to convey through that scene. What do you want your readers to take away from that specific moment in your story? List those emotions so you can see all of them. Step 1. What you want readers to know. Tell. I would have stayed on the pier forever if I could have. Step 2. Write a list of what that feeling you want them to experience is. Comfort, nostalgic, sadness, goodbye, missing, longing, relaxing. Take that list and start writing ways in which you can bring those emotions to life. What do those things mean for you? How would these emotions manifest during that specific time? Show, don't tell, exercise 3. Take your list to write ways those emotions would manifest externally. Nostalgic, aching, longing, let go, relinquish, craving, relaxing, melted, easy, fluid, flowing, and exhaling. Now take those stronger verbs and words that depict a deeper emotion and craft your sentence or paragraph with those to reflect how you truly felt. Okay. Result. I melted into the beach at the end of the pier, watching the sun wink through treetops as it reliquisted? I thought I said relinquished. Reliquisted? reliquisted itself tonight, my breath flowing fluidly once again. Melted into the beach. Sounds like a hot day, to be honest. Melted into the beach. Sank down into the beach. Sounds fine to me. Melted. I mean, I know they're trying to be very descriptive for this show exercise to show people how it's done. But it's a bit much. It's a bit much. How does this sentence make you feel? Do you feel comfort, relaxation, and sense that I love being there? That was the purpose. Did you feel like that? I don't know. Melted I just got stuck on melted. The choice words. Sank down into the beach. What's wrong with that? It's about taking one specific idea or vibe or feeling, using what you know to transform it into something that's showing, not telling. This specific example for show, don't tell can be a little time consuming at first, but you will get the hang of it and these methods will soon become second nature to you. Focus on describing senses. We told you to cut sensing words in tip 1, and that's true, but with this comes the fact that you still have to describe what your character is feeling and sensing. Showing versus telling is largely about allowing your readers to interpret what your characters are going through without just telling them. This often means using all the senses you can depict a scene. Instead of saying, she hated it there, you can use your senses to show the readers their emotion. For example, writing was showing like this. The faint scent of stale cigarette smoke met her nostrils, pulling her face into a familiar grimace. Allow your readers to understand that she finds where she is distasteful without having to just say so. You could do like, she hated it there. The faint scent of stale cigarette smoke met her nostrils. She pulled her face into a familiar grimace. You could do that too. I mean, I feel like you could. Or is that redundant? What do you think? Is that redundant if you say she hated it there and then you say the faint scent of cigarette smoke met her nostrils? She pulled her face into a familiar grimace. I can't wait to get out of here. That's what she says. Is it too on the nose? Like, am I beating the reader over the head if I do it like that? Thoughts and thinks. Practice showing, not telling every day. To master the tip of show, don't tell in writing takes time and practice to get it right. There's a fine line of using showing versus telling in your writing. With regular practice. Okay, I'm losing my mind and my voice. With regular practice by writing every day, we suggest you'll learn when to use telling and when to use showing in order to give the reader the best reading experience they have. You can even practice by reading other books and your own writing. Recognizing areas of showing can help you do it more in your own works. Okay. Oh, is that the end? That is the end. Wait. But there's 8. We'll go down here. But, oh, I see. Okay. So we have this, but they don't have the numbers correct. I thought there were going to be 8. So when I got down to 5, I was like, oh my gosh, finally we're at 5. Okay, so that's it. That is it. That is it. Wait, let's go back to what they left us off on. What did they leave us off on? Practice every day. Haha. Yes, not everyone can afford doing that. And you don't have to write every day if you can't. It's fine. It's fine. So, okay, so they gave this exercise might be useful, actually, especially if you're a new writer or you've never edited your own writing before, or anybody's writing for that matter. This exercise is good. You might want to check this out. However, I would take the examples with a grain of salt. You don't have to make it so flowery like that if you don't want to. Some of these other examples. Okay, so the one about the entire paragraph in whole scenes or entire paragraph. It's like, I think this is a stylistic choice and a plot choice. I mean, they even just said later, they say, you have to do this rule. But then you don't have to do this rule. So yeah. Is this a good article? Again, self-publishing school. Better than most because it has examples. But the thing that's not so good about it is that the examples aren't always so good. And yeah, the examples aren't always so good, and it's just really not there yet. And they contradict themselves. Okay, so they say you must use this rule, and then they say don't use this rule. So which is it, right? It could be confusing for some people who get into this show versus tell thing the first time. But I would say that in terms of what show versus tell actually is, minus the mediocre examples, they do a pretty good job of explaining it. And the exercise, the step-by-step of the exercise is really nice to see, because I think that is a good exercise. You know, I mean, I already kind of do it anyway. I mean, I've learned that, okay, I should use felt. I can describe what I'm feeling or what the character is feeling in that moment without saying I felt happy or I felt sad. She felt excited. I can just go in. I should go in and describe what that looks like or feels like to her, that sort of thing. So I was already kind of doing this sort of exercise, but now it's more solid because it can actually be an exercise, I guess. Like, I could say that I would follow this exercise. Would I follow this exercise? I would. I think I would do this exercise. But the rest of it, it's okay. It's okay. Would I give this maybe like a 3.5 star? Something like that out of 5 stars? Probably. Yeah. So, that's not to say that Bella Rose Pope didn't do a really good job. She did a pretty good job, I think, despite the examples. It could have been better, but I mean, it was pretty good, I think. I still have good vibes from self-publishing school. I think they're pretty good for a tool to learn to write. So yeah. I can't stop yawning. I think this is the end of the rope for me. So I don't know how long this video turned out to be. We'll see. So that was a live real-time reaction to the entire article. Oh my gosh, that romance example was so cringy. Oh my gosh. I can't even. So let me know what you guys think of this article, your thoughts. I had some questions in the middle about what you guys think. As for me, for show don't tell, I don't really say show versus tell. I think it's show and tell, because you're not ditching telling altogether. You can still use it. It's not like there's a show don't tell rule. You can still tell. That's fine. But sometimes showing is just more immersive for the reader. That's all this is. You're trying to get the reader to stay in your book, continue reading. That's all that this is. So that's my opinion anyway. well, that's that. So, yeah, anyway, leave your thoughts in the comments down below, and I guess I'll see you in another video. If you have like interesting writing advice articles or interesting articles, you can I think, do I have a business email up? I don't know what I have up. You can comment it, I guess. Can you comment links on YouTube? If you can, I do sometimes post in the community posts on YouTube. So if you know the community posts, yeah, so if you see something, you can post it there, or I don't know, you can contact me through Instagram, or I'll see if I have a business email up. I might have one, so you can send a link to me there. If you want me to react to something interesting that you found and you want to know what I think about it. Yeah. So anyway, that is the end of this video. As I said, comment down below. Subscribe to this channel if you want to delve into more writing advice articles, and I'll probably give some, thinking of doing some book reviews and maybe some more book rants. Maybe I'll talk about book covers. I don't know. And I also have to do part 2 for another video, so that's in the works right now. Yes, it's in the works right now. So that's why this these are good. These real-time reactions are good. I just do them and then I just post them. So anyway, yeah. How do you end videos? Yes. Okay. So yeah, that's it. Yeah, so I'll see you in the next video. I don't have a posting schedule, but if you subscribe, then you'll get notifications and stuff. And even if you don't get notifications, then you can just, you know, that I sometimes post at least once a month. Okay, at least once a month. Okay, so that's it. And the fox is out.